Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. Suppose school wasn't for you. You didn't excel at it. It wasn't too enjoyable. And you felt like you were doomed because you didn't succeed in it. That's what I felt. And that's what today's guest experienced as well. So Maddie joins us today, or Maddie Lancashire joins us today. And he finished school with an OP 16. Now, while not, the very bottom, it wasn't at the top either. But Maddie always had this belief in himself that he would make it work out. He wasn't quite sure what he was going to do to be successful, but he just believed that he was going to nail it. So now Maddie is widely recognised as one of Australia's leading real estate agents, and his team consistently sells more than $200 million worth of property annually. That is insane. So negotiating many of Queensland's most significant real estate transactions, and he holds Brisbane's house price record with the sale of one Leopard Street Kangaroo Point for $18.48 million. So he is an expert in his field, and he has really learned to excel, build an incredible team, lead, and do what he loves most. In today's episode, we talk about the importance of your association with people, making sure you're spending time around people who lift you up, empower you, and really add value to your life. We talk about hard work and enthusiasm and how that trumps a skill 9 times out of 10 in his profession. The importance of setting boundaries, why school wasn't for him, and why most don't take the necessary actions needed in order to succeed. This is going to be an absolute cracker. So thank you guys for tuning in, especially for those who are here for the first time. Welcome. Make sure you hit that follow button, whichever platform you're listening on. And for those who are returning, always good to have you back. Now, we're launching our next intake for the Strong Men of Value Academy this Monday. So Monday the 30th, so 7 days away. Now this academy is full of ambitious, like-minded men who are pursuing their potential, and they want to be surrounded by a good community of blokes who are prepared to talk about what it takes to be successful. They're open and honest about the setbacks that they face, but most importantly, they understand that success is holistic. It's not just about status and fame. There is more to what it takes to be that. It could be from being a great dad. It could be having excellent health. It could be having an incredible lifestyle. All of these things really matter in order for us as men to have fulfillment and to be the best version of ourselves. So if you would like to apply for that, head over to themanthatcanproject.com/strong men of value and hit your application there. I look forward to reading your applications. It's enough for me now. Let's dive into today's episode with Maddie Lancashire. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachie Stuart. Let's get into it. Maddie, $300 million in sales last year.
This year, yeah.
Or this year, sorry. Phenomenal.
It's been a good year.
It's been a great year, and you look amazing all the time as well. But
thanks a lot.
Mate, this is an exciting episode. I know there is a lot of real estate agents that follow the Man That Can project and are very excited to have you on the show to learn all Maddie Lancashire's tips and tricks. But before we dive into it, we're not going to talk purely real estate. For everyone who's listening, we're going to talk about ambition, work-life balance, how you went from getting an OP 16. Now, an OP for people who aren't in Queensland is like your score of, I guess, how intelligent. How smart you are coming out of school. I beat you.
1 being the best, 25 being the worst.
I think it's 24. But anyway, yeah. But yeah. You were sort of later down the ladder there.
I was 16.
It's all right, but you weren't interested in that. But then also how you came to be one of Australia's most successful real estate agents. So, mate, OP16, going out of school, talk us through what happened next.
Well, mate, OP16 is not great. It's there's people that are worse, obviously, but it's
When you came out of school, did you think you were fucked?
I don't know if I think I'd fucked. I always had ambition that I'd always be okay.
Yep.
I think school, I grew up in Brisbane. I came from quite a smart family, actually. My father's a surgeon. My brother's become a surgeon. My sister's a teacher.
Yeah, right.
And I think I had something. I was dropped maybe at birth. I'm not sure. And interestingly, school just wasn't for me. And I think that there's such a lot of pressure on young people to know what they want to do for the rest of their life at that point of time. So I found it really difficult. And at that point of time, I finished school in 98, and they didn't really tailor for emotional intelligence. It was more so book smart. So, and I just wasn't what I wanted or what I was good at. And I felt there was a lot of pressure on young people to make decisions as to what they want to do for the rest of their life, purely based on a small snippet of their life that they've had at that point of time. And literally finished school, got the OP16, which was not great. And I was playing a bit of tennis at that time, and it got about 6 months into the next year after I finished school before my parents actually said...
So when you were playing tennis, were you competitive at tennis?
Oh, I wasn't going to be professional or anything like that, but I was competitive. I'm always competitive on everything that I do, but it was just an outlet. I didn't know what I wanted to do, like literally. And it got to a point where my parents sat me down and they said, look, what do you want to do with your life? And I had zero idea. I had zero ambition, but for some reason I always knew that I'd always just find my way. And my parents said, oh, look, we've seen in the paper, here's an open day for a company called QBuild, which is a government organisation which does all maintenance, like whether it be plumbing, electrical, chippies, everything that services the government.
Yep.
And we should go to this day. I think you should get into a trade. And I was like, oh, okay, why not? So
yeah, why not?
I went and I ended up getting a job as an electrician. And
so you're a qualified Sparky?
I am a qualified I got my ticket.
That's why you were giving me advice on the lights just before.
Mate,
I just thought you were having a guess there. But
No, I know. Okay. Look, I wasn't great at it, hence I'm not doing it. And it's interesting. It's a really good segue into it. It's like you've got to find your passion as to what you wanted to do. And like I always like to finish things I start. And I finished the electrical apprenticeship and I was like, this is not for me. And I just knew that. And it was, it didn't excite me. I wasn't, it was, there was some great benefits from it, which I can go into about it's been transferable skills into what I do today. But it was a really interesting phase of my life. And I'm really grateful that I did it because I can, probably wouldn't wire up here, but I know what to do and I know how it all works.
Get you in for a cashy.
Very expensive to do. I could do a cashy actually if you wanted to.
See how we go. Put it on the gram.
But at the same time, it just wasn't my passion. It wasn't my drive. And so as soon as I finished my apprenticeship, I thought, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And it was interesting. There was this very short window where I got an opportunity to go into real estate, and it was very, very short period of time. And I decided to work in this business, and it was a bit of a false start. It was Remax Central Properties in the city.
Yep.
And interestingly, I met a girl while I was there, and then she moved to Sydney. I followed her to Sydney, and then worked in retail. So
retail,
I know, right?
Fashion, like, is this where you got?
I worked for Ben Sherman, actually.
This is where the style came from.
And then anyway, we broke up, and in big.
How old were you at this stage?
I was only young. I was 23, 24 years old.
Can I just backtrack one? Because where do you feel your curiosity came from? Because it's very rare for, like, say, 22 or 23-year-old blokes to be on, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? I think when we get in, I did a trade, and I know you might want to do it, but to actually then go, let's try something different, it's a big step. So where did that come from for you?
I'm a big believer in you should never settle. And if it's something that you think, there was a pivotal moment actually, and it was I was sitting in a lunchroom and I was in Brisbane City, and there was a gentleman. It's a great question. There was a gentleman that was in there. He must have been late 60s, or maybe even mid 60s, and he looked really upset. And I walked into the lunchroom. I was like, "What's wrong?" Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Oh, I've just had this unforeseen bill that's just come, and I've had to cancel my family's trip camping down to northern New South Wales." And I was like, "This guy's mid-60s, cancelling his trip at that age because he had an unforeseen bill." And I was like, "Bugger that, that's not me. No way in the world that I want that to be me." And you know what? I wasn't passionate. And look, if I wanted to go and be successful in that, I'm sure I could have come up with it, because there's so many trades that people are just absolutely nailing it in. Yeah. So it's like, not saying that was the reason why I got out because of him, like because of the trade. It just wasn't my passion. I thought, you know what? I don't want to be that guy, and when I'm 60 years old, sitting in this lunchroom saying it to some young 18-year-old that, you know, I've got an unforeseen bill come and I can't go on and do what I want.
Yeah.
And it was that moment when I went, nah, this is not my jam, I don't think. And then anyway, turn of events, ended up in Sydney and then moved over. I broke up, and in huge breakup fashion, I ended up in London a week later.
Mate, you don't waste time, do you?
So it was...
didn't have a grieving period.
And then went overseas and did 2 years in London and travelled around the world. Actually, it was some of the best times of my life. So it was a 2-year sabbatical effectively, and like I went over there. I didn't have a job at that point of time, and I ended up I actually sold a house, so I had a bit of money behind me, and I bought a house at a young age, and we renovated it, flipped it, and then went overseas. And interestingly, I didn't know anyone, so I decided to get a job, and I worked in a vodka bar in Clapham. And
a vodka bar. Jeez.
And it was awesome. And then met the most amazing people, moved in with them, then travelled the world and did all of these things. And 2 years later, sort of ran out of money, partied probably a little bit too hard, and decided, okay, now I'm 25. What the hell am I going to do with my life? And so it was and then you get to 25 years old, all of your friends are they've finished their degrees, working as either doctors or lawyers or whatever, all in their trades. And it was, and I came home with some great stories. And it was really interesting because I came back with all the stories, and I'd sit around, and a lot changed. And I think I changed a lot myself.
In what ways do you feel you changed?
Well, I felt like at school I was very close with all of our friends, and we're very into our own little circles, and we never ventured out of our circles. We'd go out to someone's house every Friday, Saturday night, get on the piers, do all the same thing, and like sort of Groundhog Day. And I went out to explore the world, went over by myself, and was forced to go into a whole new experiences with different people and different parts of the world and different cultures, and I was sort of forced out of my comfort zone to actually find new people.
That's probably a really important thing when you think about success, is obviously building a bigger network, learning to ask better questions and gather information, but also get used to being uncomfortable. Because if you just stay in that same bubble, as you mentioned, you're only going to have the same thoughts, actions and behaviours. And if you don't get challenged on that, you don't really ever... I know for me, I never really thought that a life of wealth financially was possible, or flexibility. I just did what everyone else did, which was similar to you, drink piss, do the same stuff, and it was Groundhog Day all week. So then to see people act, even for yourself, like I look at you and what you've created, and I know a lot of people listening to this will look at what you've created and everything that you're doing, and they're going to learn so much more about that process to success. Even the fact that you were 25, most of these people, there's a lot of young agents who I talk to on social media who aren't even 25, and they're putting so much pressure on themselves to have it all figured out and to be Matty Lank already. And it's like, you got time. You got plenty of time. There's so much that you have to put into it to get there. And
that's a whole nother sort of conversation about, what's going on now with people and wanting to be there now. Because it doesn't matter what business you're in. I listened to this amazing podcast, which we spoke about the other day. It was the Tim Ferriss with Hugh Jackman. And there was one point that he made in there, which it just resonated so much with me, is his son is always looking at ideas, and he keeps saying to his son, don't settle, go and look for something. But the issue these days now with social media, with, the way that markets are running, real estate markets running, all of those sorts of things, is that people want to be the CEO and the number one early. Like, they want to do it straight away without doing the work. And if you have a business, or if you want to be the best in whatever your given field is, or whatever your talents are, it takes a minimum of 5 years of 24/7 hard work. And then when you get 5 years down the path, it then might be able to get a little bit of work-life balance going. You know what I mean? And maybe you can employ someone to help you. You can get a manager and maybe take a backward step at that point. But everyone wants everything now for nothing.
Yep.
And they forget, like, if you, so for example, in my field, in real estate, if you think that there's such a thing as work-life balance in your first 5 years of your career, get out. Because there's not.
You're doing 6 days a week, right?
Still.
Yeah. And how long have you been an agent for?
16 years.
16 years.
Yeah, and it's like become a bit of a balance for me now, as my sort of everything's changing, family situation's changing, got 3 beautiful kids, beautiful wife, and it's I'm now working out ways of where I can improve different parts of my life.
Are you finding that hard? Like, how is that for you? Because you would be so accustomed to your routine, right? Like, many of us find routine and that becomes simple. So then trying to change things up, are you finding that challenging?
Absolutely. Like, it's for me personally now, it's particularly when the market's running as well. It's like you've got this carrot dangling in front of you, and you've worked 16 years to get to a point where your stars have aligned, but everyone wants a piece from so many different facets of your life that it becomes quite overwhelming and quite stressful. And stress is a huge, huge thing. And I'm doing everything in my life right now to mitigate as much stress as possible, because I think stress is probably one of the biggest killers of people.
Yeah, it is.
And, I'm at a point where, for me, my family is my number one priority.
Yep.
My relationships with my inner circle, and I can literally now, over time, worked out who the people I want to be associated with, and in a selfless way, I can give value to them, and in a selfish way, get value back.
Yep.
And that reference group of people has changed over a period of time, where I now spend most of my time with people I really want to spend time with. And, because time is really precious, right? So it's like you get into this busy rat race of life and work and everything, and you've just got to really manage what you actually like and what makes you happy.
We've been speaking about it a lot. I feel like every session we're talking about the meaning of life and everything like that. And I know for you, it's really delving into the meaning behind why you're doing everything that you're doing. That's how you've, it's why you show up at the gym every day. It's why you prioritize your time with your family, and you're very intentional with that inner circle, because I guess when you aren't clear on meaning and you just say yes to everyone, which I'm probably in that phase, the older we get and more experience that we get, I guess it makes it easier to say no to things. But for you, like, what is the meaning behind a lot of the stuff that you're doing at the moment?
It's a really great question, and it's something that I've been battling with for the last probably 2 years.
Yep.
Is, what's my story? What do I want? What do I want to achieve? And how am I going to do it? And that's probably, I've been working on that so hard lately. Like, you actually do have an idea, because every morning I bloody almost cry on your shoulders about life. And it's so I've worked out in the last short while is the ultimate goal, and what I want to achieve is being happy.
Yep.
Number one. And so I've worked out all of the parts of my life. I'm writing it down every single day. The things I love, the things I love to do, the things that make me happy, the things that are non-negotiable for me, and the things that I'm not actually being myself by saying yes to a lot of these things when I should be saying no.
Yep.
And a lot of those things cause added stress into the things I should be saying no to, is causing me extra stress in my life at the moment, which is in turn making me unhappy, which is doing the opposite to what I want to be, which is happy.
Yeah.
And so training, for example, but this time I spend with you, like we've got a really good training regime. And if I don't train in the mornings now, it's a part of my lifestyle.
But why has it become a part of your lifestyle? And you don't miss, like, even if you're out at a function, you'll still be there.
So if I get home at 12 o'clock, I'll still show up at 5.
Yeah. Why?
Because it's a well, one, I don't want to let you down, and you're very expensive as well, so I want to get my value out of it. Two, I want to. I feel
I'm not
like
an expense, mate. I'm an investment.
Investment, yeah, that's what you keep saying. I set quite high standards of myself,
Yep.
and I like to do things that I say that I'm going to do. And I take it very seriously. If I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I get anxiety about it. And then also, unless I really need a break, I'll text and say, "Hey, I'm really need."
But even then, like, I reckon there's been under a handful of times that's happened. Other times we might just sit in the sauna or have an ice bath or literally go for a coffee. Like, it's
100%, just show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I enjoy that. Like, you're one of the people that I actually get value in being in my life, not trying to give you a
plug
on to the manatcanproject.com. It's I enjoy the time that we spend, and I'd hope in return you'd get some value out of our time we spend together as well.
Tons, yeah.
And but yeah, I think showing up and doing the things and practicing what you love to do, like every morning, like I was there this morning training and loved it, and it sets my day up for me to. I like to do things that make me happy, and so if I do that, it'll impact the way that navigates the way that my day is going to go.
How does it help you though? Like, obviously, one, doing something that makes you happy, but two, from a physical standpoint with your energy, because I feel privileged to have an hour of your time during a work day. Like, your time's very valuable. So the fact that you've diverted appointments and all that to be here, how does having the energy and the health and the fitness and the vitality that gives you set you up for success in your career? Because picture this, right? You could be on the flip side where a lot of blokes are, where they're so unhealthy, they turn to the bottle a fair bit and they say, I don't have time to train.
And that was me.
When? No,
being vulnerable about it, it's like, that was me. I was finding my escapism from life and stress was drinking alcohol.
Yep.
And I'd quite regularly drink 3 or 4 bottles of red at night, not only because I actually love red wine, but not only that, but because it was a bit of an escapism of stress and everything. But the problem came is when I would do that regularly, and then I'd still show up to training.
Yeah.
And so when you have a problem like that, I'd go, and I'm sure a number of people that listen to this would be in the same boat, is you've got to know what's good for you and what's not good for you. And you've got to be honest with yourself and stop doing deals with yourself on those things. And if you think you're drinking too much, then fix it. So we've done 125 days off the piss this year, which has been awesome. And look, I don't want to say that I'm doing these things for to feel good just for that, but it's like, if you have an issue in your life, and that's one of my issues, is I like drinking red wine and I like drinking it and I don't have boundaries on it.
Yep.
I need to fix that part. And if I fix that part in my life, I genuinely know. So the time off the booze I've had this year, I've become more engaged with my family, with our team at work, with my relationships with my friends, guaranteed.
Yep.
And they all know that I'm not drinking or I haven't been drinking, and your real friends won't put the pressure on you. And look, one part of it though is I actually really enjoy it. So, to have a wine with my wife or have a wine with my best mates to celebrate an occasion.
Yep.
Why not? No problem.
We've spoken about that because we made that agreement, and then we're like, well, you do miss out on so much, and it's not, for some people it is a problem. For me, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
And for you, it's not either. But it's working out. Okay, well, what's the opportunity cost? I would love to sit down and have a beer with a mate or anything like that. But when you put restrictions on yourself, there is a detriment to it as well.
Totally. But like, if you have an issue that you genuinely know the reason you stop drinking is because you have a drinking issue, then stop.
Well, think about it like this, right? If you're overweight and the energy levels are making you snappy with your parent, with your family, or in the workplace, like, cut it out. Like, do everything you can to get that shit sorted, because your wife's not going to hang around forever, or your partner's not going to hang around forever. Your kids will probably think you're a dick, and you'll end up resenting yourself.
Well, it's interesting with your family. You get into a routine, and then if the people you love are accepting of it, there's only so long they'll accept it for. And it's not until the damage is done where it's done.
Yep.
So if you genuinely want to improve your life and do things that, to improve the quality of everyone's life around you and give the maximum impact, have a think about, rate yourself. What are the things that you could improve in? And I do that every day now. I've just started doing that.
Yep.
I write all of the things I want to achieve in the morning, and I write all the affirmations of who I want to be and what I want people to think of me.
Yep.
And it's really interesting. I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember which one it was, but they were saying, what would people say at your eulogy? And I really thought about that. And I was like, do you know what? Do I want to be known as the grumpy guy that snaps at everyone, that rips everyone's head off? Or do I want to be the leader, the inspiration, the great father, the great husband, the great friend, and all of those things? And I think everyone wants that, right? And everyone has a choice to do that. But you've got to make that decision and be really hard on yourself, because most people, they know what the issue is deep down, but they're not prepared to accept it and talk about it.
Yeah, there's a good exercise that everyone can actually do, and send it out to you, but I always get clients and mates, and I do it for myself as well. I send it out to important people in my life who I value their opinion and I know will shoot straight, not sort of beat around the bush and go, everything about you is perfect. And I sent it to Amy, and it was asking how she perceives me, and the things that I got back was like ambitious, hardworking, all work related, which is awesome. It's what I always wanted. But then I'm at a point in my life now where I wish she said I was caring. I was always valuing her time. I made her feel heard, and that didn't come back. And I was like, fuck, maybe my priorities are wrong and how I'm showing up's wrong. So even though it's it is a wake up call, I can now shift that, because when my eulogy does come, I want different outcomes.
Absolutely. So do you know what? For me now, I look at different buckets of my life, of how I want to be and what I want to achieve. And funnily enough, the financial and wealth side of it has become way down the priority list.
Do you feel that is, because there's going to be people going, yeah, but that's because you got it sorted. Do you feel like, obviously you're always going to want more money. Like I think as people, we always want, and that comes of a result of wanting to just grow. It's not always the dollar figure. It's just, I want to be better. But do you feel because you're in a position where you maybe always once wanted to be, it's not a priority? Or is it just because you've seen, because here's a question for you. I feel I'm in a fortunate position. I get to speak to you a lot, and many other successful business owners that I guess are in financial positions and have life set up to what I'm striving towards. But I also see that it doesn't change everything, if that makes sense. I feel a lot of us are striving for that $1 million or whatever it is, because we think that's the ticket that's going to change our life. Mm-hmm. Is that bullshit?
No, it's not bullshit. What's bullshit is money doesn't change who you are as a human being or the meaning of what you want to achieve, right? So just because and this is what I think, you look at billionaires and all of those sorts of things and you go, okay, well, why would they turn into dicks just because they've got money? Why wouldn't they just be, great humans? And I'm sure that there's some great examples of people that are very wealthy that are actually really good humans, obviously. But it's like, it gets to a point where if you focus purely everything on your life to be about financial, I just think you'll fail. Like you lose sight of what's actually important in life. So there's the saying that goes, you could be a billionaire unhappy and you're broke, or you could be the happiest person on earth and broke and you're a billionaire. Make sense? So you could have no money but happy, you're a billionaire, and vice versa.
The meaning we give to it is
It's like, and for me now, my whole thing is I've missed a lot in my life of sacrifices. So for example, being a real estate agent and a performing real estate agent, you work 6 days a week. You're literally, when I was coming up through the ranks, I was in the office. Like I'm talking, I'd get in the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I used to benchmark myself against other agents in the office and stay there longer, make more calls, get really serious about what I was doing. And it had an impact on my personal life. So I've got a lot of friends like that would sit there and go, oh, Matt doesn't come here, or, it came late to my own 30th birthday party. And interestingly enough, it's not until now that my mates who actually might have been a bit upset at the time get it.
Yep.
Right? And it's like, so I made a huge amount of sacrifices. I missed I missed 25th birthdays, 30th birthdays, rocked up late to wedding. I'd always wear my suits to weddings. I'd go to the ceremony, back to the office, make calls, then go to the reception. But that was my life. I literally used to burn through girlfriends because they couldn't understand what they'd be like. Oh, when are you coming home? Or what do you like? When do you got time for me? And it's like, well, this is the path I'm on, and you have to make I made sacrifices, and now I'm seeing the benefit of those sacrifices. Yep. But at what point is enough? Like,
it's a big question.
And this is the questions I'm asking myself all of the time. And yeah, great, we've had a huge year this year, like ridiculous year. And interestingly, it hasn't made me any more happier. The money.
Yep.
What will make me happier is being more engaged with my family, being more engaged with my wife, being more engaged with my friends, and enjoying myself, not stressing. Because it's like, it's all good. You can make all the money in the world, but then what? You get hit by a bus and die. What happens then?
Yeah.
Pretty deep.
Yeah, I was like, went real deep. This is a normal bloody Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with Maddie and Lachie.
But it's interesting because everyone spends so much time planning on future stuff rather than living in the present.
Well, yeah. This is one thing I'm so great. And you mentioned before, like, you hope I learn a lot from you. It's one thing that I learned from yourself and other people is like, I get to learn someone who has a highly successful business, runs leadership, speaks well, keeps his commitments, has the family and all that sort of stuff. But you also have set yourself up financially. But it's also, we get to talk about, it's like, well, there eventually comes a point where it's like, when's enough and what's the meaning for your life? So for me to be able to take those lessons while I'm growing my business, and even for me with the rowing coming up, taking a month essentially where I'll be fucking half dead to just do that, it may impact my business, but it's an experience that I may never get to do.
But on that rowing thing, mate, it's you know what? It's like not many people can do that. It's like it's a bit mental. And doing 31 marathons or 30 marathons in 30 days, whatever it is.
See how we feel.
And you know what, though? But the great thing about it, indirectly from that, you've got a bunch of people that have come on the journey to support you with that.
Yep.
And they're now training and doing something that they've never done. So in an indirect way, and I'm sure that this wasn't your whole thing, but you've now got a community of guys that are coming together to row, to support you, and also do things for themselves that they've never, putting themselves out of their comfort zone. So it's huge, mate. It's awesome. It's like, and it's not really about the row. The row's like one thing, but
vehicle,
but what it's actually doing indirectly on the back end of it is nothing short of exceptional. It's awesome.
Thanks, mate.
So
you're hitting the first one with me now as well, which will be great. But going back, I want to touch on the sacrifices because I think that definitely goes undervalued. I watch people, even Darren and Tash, with what they've done with Functional. Like, I see sacrifice, and I think I'm very attuned to it. I think this is why I believe everyone should have a shot at running a business, because there's people who have never run a business and they don't understand maybe why they aren't getting pay rises, why the business is running the way it is, because there's so many things going on in the background that people miss and can't understand because they've never been in that position. So you talk about before people wanting to jump the gun, that is that instant gratification. People want to be a fucking top agent, or they want to be a top coach, or they want to be the best on YouTube without doing the work. And as a result of that, they're missing all the learnings, and they're quite frankly just being fucking ignorant pricks. So you talk about the sacrifices of missing birthdays, rocking up to weddings, going back to parties. Like, most people would never do that, but they still want success. So talk about the price of success, because it's a fucking huge thing. And looking at the price of success for you, is there anything that you would do differently?
Look, it's
a long-winded question.
I know, but it's you know what? It's funny. A lot of people that look at me or come into our business and they see, well, they actually in our business they see the work that goes into it. But there's a lot of people from the outside that they think that I'm a 16-year overnight success.
Yep.
And they all want to. A lot of people do want to. Well, they want to knock me off all the time, which is great, and I love that. I love ambition. I'm all for ambition. Like, our whole business, the way that we've got it structured, is to harness people's ambition and help them grow.
Yep.
But what you find is you got two types of people. You got people that say that they have ambition, they want to do it, and then you offer them an opportunity to do it, and they don't do it. And then you got people that run at it. And, being a leader or being an owner of a business isn't everyone's path, right? Some people are better and one of the best things about our group is there is agents that can make more money than the owners. And that's a really proud thing for us. So with our industry, you can go, the work you put in is what you get back.
Yep.
And we have agents in our business that could make more money than me and my business partner, Hazley. And that's a really proud thing. And you got to embrace that. And you mentioned Darren and Tash before with their business at Function Well. Like what an epic business, you know, and like hard work, a lot of risk, lots going on, with natural disasters and
all kinds of stuff. And you hear people complain about the most minute thing, and you're like, pull your head out of your ass for a second and look at the big picture here. I know, there's so much happening, and everyone's, I truly believe every business owner is doing the best that they can to, provide opportunity, create good. Obviously, there's some that don't, but create good culture and provide opportunity. As you said, foster people to grow into the best, version of themselves. But often it's quite easy to try and pull people apart and look at the bad stuff.
At the moment, there's a lot of that happens. It's and social media has been a big part of that. Like it's. Like I just can't with the social media. Like I should say that I put myself out there with videos and things like that.
You've got the best content in real estate.
Oh, but it's like it gets to a point where you go, okay, I don't know.
We were talking about this last week or the week before, but I'm in the same position where I fucking hate having to
really
create content.
Really? Are you sure about that?
Oh no, I do. It's so good for my business. Like it's one of those things. I've put myself in a position with business that most of my leverage comes and my clients come through social media. But I'm at a point as well where every time I get on social media, I'm fucking anxious coming off it because I feel like I'm not doing enough, or
that's how I feel.
It makes you feel inadequate, even though I know I'm doing a ton, and you're the same. But it's just fake world, or you catch some people's content at the wrong time, and it goes, oh, I'm not doing enough, even though I've done 10 podcasts this week and coached 30 sessions or whatever. You've sold $10 million worth of property, and it's just do have those moments. I think it's, for me, if I could control where my focus goes, one thing in the future is I want to step back from social media a bit more.
It's an evolving world all the time. And for us, we needed to make a shift. Like I saw a gap in the market literally about 5 years ago where I was a huge print advocate. So we used to put lots of ads in the paper for my business, obviously, and then social media came.
just prints of yourself.
No, for ads of properties.
Yeah, okay.
And it was interesting. It's like we spoke about this the other day. It was there's moments of your life where you realise, geez, what do I need to do to go to the next step, and how do I innovate and do all these things? And I saw a gap with social media about 5 years ago, and I said to Hazley, my business partner, mate, this is a big thing, and he used to hate it. He'll openly tell you, he's like, what are you doing on that? That's like, just so distracting and everything. And then I said to him, mate, if you're not on this now, in 5 years' time, you're going to really struggle if you don't have that going on.
Yep.
And then you just watch what's happened with it. Social media, it's a necessary evil.
Yep.
It's like, it's interesting. In a world today, it's like they've got all filters for everything, right? Like, and I love what Amy does with her socials about it. And you look at anyone that actually uses a filter or just does anything with a photo.
Yep.
There's some vainness in that.
Definitely.
And it's just become like, I saw this app the other day, which was on, I think we spoke about it too. You can actually delete someone from a photo and put someone else in it. What the hell?
It's mental. So you're telling me when I crop this, I can put like LeBron James next to me?
Pretty much, you could if you wanted to. You should.
Yeah, I should.
But it's an interest. It's an ever evolving world, and it's I don't know.
It's a necessary evil, but that's why you got to learn how to manage it. If you're getting anxious and overwhelmed from it, try and minimize your time and potentially outsource it, or just cut time on it. You and Hazy weren't always in business together. No. Actually, I want to go one question before that. You got into real estate at what, 25, 26?
25, yeah.
25. Did you just rip straight into it, or did you fuck around for a fair bit?
Well, it was interesting. I got back from overseas and I was over in London. Hazley he rang me and said, "Hey, mate, I'm in London. Let's go out for a night." And caught up with him. We went out to this club in Mayfair, actually, and it was a big night. Had a chat. Yeah. And I said, "Look, I'm coming home." And he just bought a business called Ray White New Farm. And he literally had 4 staff. He had a 450 square metres of office space, which was huge, and 4 staff. He had a girl on reception who had, her nickname was Knuckles because she had tats on her knuckles.
Nice.
And literally it was one of those things where he was desperate for salespeople. And I came home from overseas and I sat down, had a meeting with him. He goes, "Oh, mate, you'd be a really good agent. You should definitely, I know you've had a taste of it, but you'd be really good." And he goes, "What's your plan?" I said, "After travelling the world, I think I want to start a shoe shop, a shoe store in Sydney." And he's like, "Okay, what the heck?" And I should have looked at what's that brand now? The one in the city?
Which one?
Oh, there's a few shoe shops. So
Mate, I'm not a platypus or Nike.
No, like one of those Brando sort of shops or whatever. Anyway, he said, "Look, I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should sell real estate." And so I decided, yep, I'm going to do that. And literally it took me 6 months to make my first sale. 6 months. Then it was at a time where there was no debit credit system. So in real estate, you now have to pay a person a wage and they call it debit credit. You pay it back.
Gotcha.
So there's legal requirement to have to do that now. There never used to be that legal
So you were
requirement.
just purely commission?
Commission only. So I'd sucked up all of my last little money that I had.
Yep.
I've moved out of home. I bought a house with a mate at 18, moved overseas, never been home. I hadn't been home since I was 18, moved overseas, travelled the world, came home, moved back in with my parents at 25, had no money. Literally, my first sale that I made, I remember it was on McKellar Street in Tenerife. It fell over, the first one. Then another agent in our office goes, "Hey, I've got a buyer for you." And then I was so desperate for the sale, he said, "Oh, look, I'll bring my buyer through. They're interested in something else. Let's reverse the split of the commission." So he got 80%, I got 20%.
Oh, dirty dog.
And dogged me. And I took it because I needed some money. And literally made like 14 grand in my first year.
Yep.
And I sold a house, had a heap of money from that, went overseas, burnt it all, came back, moved home. I got myself into $50,000 credit card debt. And interestingly, I was so embarrassed that I didn't even tell my parents. My mum and dad didn't know. I was living at home, zero money, $50,000 debt. Like I was literally juggling credit card debt to pay another credit card debt and got to 50K.
Fuck.
And it's funny, Hazley's mum and Hazley's now mother-in-law, they used to literally, pray for me that I'd actually make it in real estate. And it got to a point that I sat there and I was like, how low does your bank account have to be until you start to do the things you should be doing or that would generate income? And so it was this moment. And I remember it was like literally $50,000 debt. And I rang my mum and said, "I need to borrow $1,000. And she goes, "Okay." And I went and bought a new suit because my suits had holes in it. Like my pants had holes and my shoes were like all tatty. And so I bought a new pair of shoes and a suit and booked a flight to Sydney. And I went and I organised meetings with 3 of the top agents in Sydney. And
were they in any relation to Ray White, or were these just...
The main one I met wasn't. He was with McGrath, actually.
And he was still willing to meet with you?
Yeah, but that's the industry, right?
Yep.
Yeah, pay forward. And,
that's awesome.
But it wasn't like an easy meeting to have. It was like you meet me at this time, you got 15 minutes and, I'm flying down from Sydney for this meeting.
Yep.
And it's funny. It was I had the meeting with this gentleman and he said, "Yep, let's go. I'll give you 3 pieces of advice." And I was like, "Yeah, okay. What is it?" And he goes, "You need to do auctions." I said, "Yep, okay, cool. You need to be the biggest advertiser in a publication, in your local publication." He was in Sydney, he was in Wentworth Courier, which was in Paddington, Wallara area. And then you need to outwork your competition. And I was like, okay. And I was like, oh, that sounds really awesome. Okay, I'm going to do that. And I wrote down all my goals. Number 1 auction lister.
Yep.
Number 1 advertiser, hardest worker in my industry, outwork my competition. Came back to Brisbane, Hazley had the sales meeting and he goes, everyone, Matt's been in Sydney. He's got the special sauce, he's got the magic dust of what to do in real estate. And I stood up and I said, yep, you've got to do auctions. You've got to do big print and you've got to work really hard.
Yep.
And he said, you are a fucking idiot. That is like Ray White's been around for 100 years and that's what the whole training in Ray White has been for the whole 100 years. And what was interesting about it, I learned a very valuable lesson in that. Right. One, yes, I was a fucking idiot. And I could have saved $1,000 to fly to Sydney and a flight and suit. But it's not about the message. Sometimes it's not about what people tell you. It's about how they deliver and how it resonates with you. And Ray White could have been saying that to me in our training, or Hazley could have been training us on it. But it didn't drop. The penny didn't drop. And it took all of those steps for me and the desperation to listen. And I found it was delivered to me in a way where I went, I get it. Light bulb moment, right? So everything I do now, I look for these little light bulb moments. And interestingly, I came back from Sydney and implemented all of those things, non-negotiable, became like literally psychopathic about it. Like would not deviate one little bit from it. And my business every single year, 2x, 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 2x. All the way through, and it's still the ethos of my business now. And every single year, without fail, my business has doubled. It's insane, and it's like, and obviously it's evolved along the way. Like I've set up some pretty awesome structures and some systems, and have an epic team to support as well. But interestingly, it's I called it going pro. I made a decision in my mind. How low does your bank account have to be before you actually do the activities you should be doing, and how am I going to execute it? Because what most people do is everyone knows what to do, right, in their given field, but they just don't do it and they don't implement it and they don't do it. And I became literally psychotic about it. Psychotic. And I didn't, and hence missing friends' birthdays, missing going out, missing doing all of these things that as a young person, missing those things is probably the hardest thing as to why people aren't successful, is because they're not willing, like really, really, truly willing to make the sacrifice to make it happen. And I literally knew what I wanted, and I thought, holy shit, this is my opportunity to have a crack. And I don't want to go back to being a sparky. It's not what I want to do and how I want to be. But this is something that and I didn't necessarily have the skill. But what I had was I knew what I needed to do. I became psychotic about it. I followed a system and followed a process, and I worked my ass off. And it was interesting. It was like you start to get a little bit of success. I paid back the 50 grand, like no credit cards. Then I was like, okay, what's next? Awesome. I bought an apartment in New Farm. So I bought my apartment on Brunswick Street, then kept going, then bought a house, my first house. Then I bought a second house. Then bought our building where our office is, and then everything. I've always set these big, hairy, audacious goals every year that I want to achieve, and then and now, funnily enough, 16 years later, my whole goal system, my hairy, audacious goals, are not financial based. It's changed.
It's interesting, very, very interesting. So, obviously more family focused and stuff like that. When you think about, when you speak about those actions and the discipline, why do you feel a lot of people don't take them? Like if most people know what to do, what do you feel is holding us back?
Oh, fear.
Yep.
There's fear of failure and fear of success as well. And that's, it's all good having a plan and writing a plan. And, we have a lot of people in our group that they all know what to do, right? They all know the business plan. But what happens is on a Monday morning, come into the office, they go, oh, what'd you do on the weekend? Try and, distract other people. Let's go get a coffee and talk about the weekend. Oh, a bit hungover today, but,
Yep.
Oh, I know I need to make my 50 calls to people that own property, and, because if you make your 50 calls to people that own property every day, your business is going to go really well. Then what they do is they get distracted. They don't make those calls and they say, oh, bugger it, today's a write-off. I'm going to do 100 tomorrow. Then they roll them the next day. They don't do the 100. I'm going to do 150 on Wednesday.
Yep.
I'm going to blank out the whole day and do 150. And it snowballs and snowballs, and then they don't do it. So no one's actually prepared to do the actual work that will
Yep.
they know the outcome for. It's not until they get a taste of it or they have a light bulb moment where they go, actually, that works.
What do you believe are like 2 or 3 skills that everyone from sales to entrepreneurship should learn to be successful?
Oh, look, I hate the word, but it's true. Is hard work.
Yep.
You know, and I believe, and we see this all of the time in our industry, is hard work and enthusiasm around what you're wanting to do can beat the shit out of skill 9 times out of 10. You know, so actually being prepared to do the hard work, get your hands dirty.
Yep.
You know, get in there and do the work. Is a huge part of it. You've got to know what you want to achieve is another one.
Yep.
And how you're going to achieve it. So it's all good. So for example, with you and your row, so you're doing 30 marathons in 30 days. That's the goal, right?
Yep.
The goal's all cool, and most people have these awesome, hairy, audacious goals, but they're not prepared to do the steps. Like, so for you got to eat 4,000 calories a day in order so you don't turn into like an Ethiopian.
Yep. Bloody hard.
And, you know, so you've got to eat, you've got to train, you've got to get your kilometres on your legs, you've got to do all of these things in order to get to the final, which is finishing 30 marathons.
Yep.
So most people will say, I want to do that goal, but then they won't do all the work that prepares them to get to that, what the end goal is, and they fall apart and they don't make it. And that's what happens in most industries. It's transferable. It doesn't matter if it's real estate or anything. People aren't prepared to tick boxes and follow a process. They want to cut every corner and go to the end, and it never works.
Yep.
They don't build foundations. Like, you've got to have a plan. You've got to execute your plan. That makes sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And then the last thing I think is you've got to have compassion for people. Like, you've got to be empathetic. You got to, like, because, you know, it's all good saying, oh, you know, you've just got to be genuine human. I'm believing for giving back, and I believe in doing, you know, giving advice to people. I believe in just being a good human, and I think that comes back in life always.
Definitely. Some great points. Final question. What's your definition of being a man?
Being a man. That's interesting in the world of transgender and all of that at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's and the reason why I ask it is because everyone's definition is completely different, right? There's going to be some people who think my definition's fucking pathetic or it's toxic or whatever it is, but then there'll be people who go, that's what I stand for, that's what I believe in. That's what I think, because we're not all supposed to fly under the same fucking belief system.
Yeah, I don't know. Being a man, look, maybe for me, it's a good question. I think for me is I direct that to all of the impact on relationships that I have with my people, and committing to things that I say that I'm going to do, having integrity with everything that I do, being a good human. You know, I love what you said before about commitments, like, you know, always fulfilling your commitments that you make, and just adding value, like being of service to people in life, I think is one of the things. And I think for me now, it's like I want to be a great role model for my family. I want to be a great role model for my friends, and my reference group. And for anyone, you know, it's interesting in a world that we live in now with social media, people think they know you before they know you. Yeah, the anonymity or whatever however it's pronounced. And look, I'm working really hard on myself at the moment not to actually care. But it's hard, you know, in a world of trolls and all of those things. And you know, with real estate, you put yourself out there all the time, and you obviously with everything, anyone that puts himself out there, they're open to get criticised, right? And I think for me, if I can only control what I can control, so being a nice person, being compassionate to people, caring about people, being interested in people, being present with people, is something that is, I think that's what determines being a man for me. And that might be a long-winded way of answering. I like it, mate. That was quality. I really, really like it. So where can people find you? Where can people find one of the most enjoyable to watch real estate agents on social media? Instagram is obviously one. I've got a hacker at the moment. I saw another one. Yeah. Mate, you've had some rough trots with Instagram over the last 12 months. I've been hacked quite a few times, and So it's
held ransom.
Matt_Lancashire with an E, no E. That if the one with no E comes to you and wants to sell you crypto, don't buy the crypto.
It's cheap at the moment.
But no, look, it's I love doing things like this. I love and then other little things is I love sharing little things, and if you get something from it, awesome. If you don't get anything from it, no issues.
Yeah.
And it's like I just think these things are really great for if anyone's sitting there and something resonates with you, or if there's a light bulb moment or something that resonates with you, then awesome. One thing I just wanted to finish on, I always like to talk about books that I'm reading at the moment.
Yes.
Or podcasts that I'm listening to. So if anyone that's listening hasn't read or listened to on audio book Atomic Habits by James Clear, it is
phenomenal.
An absolute game changer, and it's interesting with Lachie's row that he's got going on, and the analogy I gave about that. It's interesting. James Clear sums it up all in one about that: is you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, which is just so
spot on.
So it's if you haven't read that, it's all about marginal gains, and life is not about going and making massive shifts of things. So if you got to change everything, it doesn't work. Just make these marginal little shifts, and they have such huge impact on all aspects, and that's transferable not only with business but relationships, everything. And it's so that's a really good one as well. If you want,
great book.
If you want, if you're a young family and you've got boys and or girls, and you're a young father or mother, or that's struggling, or you're an uncle or whatever you might be, an older brother, there's a great book called Raising Boys, and there's Raising Girls.
Here also The New Manhood. I got his new book the other day called Fully Human by Steve Biddulph. He's next level. Awesome.
And it's just a short little podcast that I've just listened to, and I've flicked it to Lachie.
You did flick it to me.
It was a Tim Ferriss one, which was with Hugh Jackman. And obviously Hugh Jackman being such a great Aussie icon. Is
David Foster Wallace, This is Water.
That is a speech that is made at I think it's at a Kenyan university, like a commencement speech that he makes. And if you have a chance of that, This is Water. It's just a really great analogy of life and, making choices. It's, people are all busy.
Yep.
And, people make a choice as to whether you want to wake up being angry or whether you want to wake up and have the most exceptional day of your life. That's up to you, it's, so that whole This is Water is about that.
I'll post that in the show note. Actually, I'll put it in the Facebook group, so you have to take an action step and join the Facebook group. But Matty, it's been a pleasure. I feel underdressed next to you, but you've inspired me to get a new coat.
Thanks,
It's
mate.
been unbelievable. And even for me, the takeaways, I always learn from you, like I said, but just the way you speak and the certainty behind how you speak for me is just like, it gets me so motivated. So it's made me also want to do a speaking course or something like that. I'll figure out what that looks like.
Maybe I can do it in our one-on-one session.
Yeah, you can coach me.
Get some back. Get some of that money back.
That's not going to work for me. No. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Locke. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachie Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favourite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.